Welcome to the session Autosave and Concurrent Editing in Drupal 8 and 9. My name is Hristo Chonov and I work for 1x Internet. 1x Internet is a full-service digital agency and a leader in the development of web solutions based on Drupal and React as well. Our core competencies, besides watching volcanoes in Iceland, include digital strategy and consulting, user experience and design, development with Drupal and React, web tracking, SEO, online marketing, and of course, hosting and maintenance, as well support services. We are an international team of 60 employees from all over the world, from South America, North America, Asia, and Europe as well. We speak more than 18 different languages and have offices in Frankfurt, where our headquarters are, Berlin, Reykjavik, and Cuneo de la Frontera in Spain. We've been founded in 2013, and we've been growing ever since. As I said, my name is Hristo Chonov. I'm originally from Bulgaria, but I've studied in Germany, computer science at the TU Darmstadt, and I work and live in Frankfurt, Germany for most of the time. And I'm also a senior software engineer at 1x Internet. I'm co-maintainer for the Drupal 8 and 9 core entity API, although I haven't been that active in the past year, something that we've heard in the Dries note that is regarding multiple developers in the past year. However, regarding this talk right now, I'm the author and or main maintainer for the two modules that are going to be presented right now, Autosave Form and Conflict, the branch 2.x. So let's start with Autosave Form. As the name suggests, the Autosave Form module for Drupal provides continuous autosaving of the form, including the user input and the state of the form. The state of the form being, like, for example, a field that has a multiple cardinality, we have added multiple items or changed something. That is the state of the form, changing, removing things, adding inline entities, and so on and so on. That has a state besides just the input. The module itself is basically actually plug and play, but however, it provides some basic options, like we can control how often the autosave is triggered itself. By default, it's triggered every 60 seconds, but we also have an experimental function to do it only on form change, meaning that it's not going to run every 60 seconds, but it's going to run only when something really changed. But that's still experimental. I haven't decided to make that the default, but I guess that will be rather the better option to be that the default. It also works with the interval as well again, but it's a more complex situation. Don't need to go in there. It's also possible to be enabled only for specific entity types and bundles. By default, if you don't check anything, it will be running on all entity types and bundles. Currently, we are supporting all content entity forms, and we don't have support for config entity forms yet, but it can be added on request. I haven't worked on that because I don't really see a reason for. It's not content that you're going over and over again and making changes. So just shortly about how Autosave Form works. It basically provides a form builder decorator in order to alter a little bit the submission of Drupal forms. That's in order to speed the autosave submission, because a lot of the stuff that's happening under the hood in Drupal, we don't need that. That's only delaying the response. Further, we want to prevent any form and entity validation because we don't care about them right now, just for autosave. We further want to prevent any hook invocations. We don't want anything to be altered, like the user import or the form state. And as well, we want to prevent updating the form build ID that usually happens on AJAX requests. The autosave module creates states, meaning every time autosave is triggered and there were changes, a new state, a new autosaved state will be created, but only if there were changes compared to the previous time autosave has run. That allows for implementing an undo and redo functionality on top of it. I haven't done that yet, but it makes it possible. It behaves like this when the form is saved, the entity form, depending on whether the conflict module for concurrent ending is enabled or not. If the conflict module is enabled, then what will happen is that the users that have conflicts, that the autosave sessions, they will be preserved. And there will be a pop-up notifying the users. If the conflict module is not enabled, then the states of the current form session will be deleted because we cannot do anything with that. So for the future, some of the plans include using the browser local storage so that we can still have some autosave, even though there is, for example, no internet connection right now, you're traveling in a train. Further, to conserve bandwidth and server processing time, maybe we can do it like this, that every couple of minutes or like every couple of autosave states are pushed at once to the server, but not each one of them. There have been considerations and talks about implementing autosave as forward revisions in Drupal, something that is an approach that's been used, like, for example, by content moderation. However, that has a couple of limitations. Like, for example, if we have no constraints, if we have some validation, entity validation on some fields, if we have new inline entities, like you have just created a paragraph, but you haven't saved it yet. And also the most important of all, how do we cover entity types that do not support revisions? And that's everything that why autosave has its own storage, and it's not limited by all those technical issues. There is also an issue for that's considering adding autosave to core or in any variant of it. And of course, your requests and ideas are welcome. So let's continue to conflict. Branch 2.x. Conflict, the conflict module in its 2.x branch offers concurrent editing of entity forms. Like we can see on this picture, that is a message that you're going to see when you open an entity form and another user opens the same entity form. Both of you make changes and save one after another. That's something that will always happen because Drupal updates the timestamp of the entity and it just checks when it was lastly modified. And in that case, it's not going to allow you to save, even if you edit only the title and the other user edits only the body. For whatever reason, just fixing a typo might result into this error message. Of course, we don't want to show this message if there is something trivial that we can change automatically, or if we have some really long forms and we don't want that the users have to restart editing their form over again. So we support content entity types that are both revisionable or non-revisionable. It doesn't matter if the entity is revisionable or not for us. We don't support config entity types like with autosave as well. The internals are basically something that's only for if you have some more complicated use case, you need to know them, but basically it works like this, that it's adding through an entity handler that can be overwritten. It's adding an entity builder to the entity forms, which is detecting conflicts using a three-way comparison for each entity field, using the initially used entity to build the form, then the entity that is generated from the currently submitted form values, and as well the entity in its current version in the storage that possibly is a newer one saved by the other user. We support default auto merging for some use cases that are trivial, and we also support an event system for extended conflict discovery and resolution for your more complicated use cases. Fields that are being auto-merged are the ones that are not enabled in the currently used entity form display. So the user doesn't see them. They're auto-merged from other versions of the entity, for example, from the storage. Fields that the current user doesn't have access to, that are as well fields that the current user doesn't see. Translatable fields from other translations of the entity, because they're on completely other page anyway, and the current user cannot edit them. Entity metadata, the change timestamp, the revision metadata, the change timestamps across the different translations, and so on, and all the different entity metadata that is possible. And also fields that are changed only either in the current form or in the newest storage version, that are fields where we don't have conflicts. They're merged automatically as well. Otherwise, we have a non-auto-mergeable conflict that requires a manual resolution. For the discovery and the resolution, we have an entity conflict discovery event that is being fired with the three entities that I've mentioned, the one that has been used initially, the base entity. Then we have our current left entity, right entity, the one from the storage, and also we pass a context as a parameter back, including when dealing with entity forms, includes the form state, the form display, revision branch metadata can be included, and so on and so on. Meaning you can use that conflict discovery and resolution to trigger conflict discovery and resolution for something that's beside form changes. So during the first event, a list of conflicting properties is being built. And then we have a second event that on top of these three entities adds a result entity, the one that is being created like by merging all the conflicts. And also we are receiving the conflict list, which is being emptied as soon as a conflict is being resolved automatically, for example. And then we have a manual resolution. When submitting through the form and there are some non-mergeable conflicts, then this conflict resolution will be offered to the users. We currently support the main, the basic one is the in-one one that is going to be, it's integrated directly into the form. There is also some dialogue-based one, which is not that advanced. The main target here are actually nested inline entity forms. For example, you have paragraphs and you want to offer like first the one paragraph, then on next the second paragraph that has conflicts, and so on and so on. Otherwise, having it all inline in a big form, it's just going to be a terrible experience. However, that needs further work. It has been tested only with an inline module called entity reference inline. Maybe we can offer a mix of both. That depends on you and on your requests, also on your support and help building that. For the near future, eventually, I have implemented an experimental module, conflict paragraphs, that supports conflict resolution as well for paragraphs. But it needs testing and your help to build it as well. For the more further future, something that I've been planning to implement is a suggestion that came in one of the sessions to provide auto merge of text fields with div highlighting. There is a library that can be used for that. So at some point we can think about implementing that as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show a little demo. I have Drupal 9.2.6 with the Umami Food magazine installed as a profile, the gene team, and the modules Autosave Form, Conflict, and paragraphs. I have paragraphs installed, not for the concurrent editing part, but for showing that it works with autosave, because that question has been coming all along. Okay, so here I'm walked in two different sessions. One is in incognito mode and the other one is a regular mode. I'm walked with one user here and with another user here. So when I start editing the form, the first thing that we can see is actually that here on the right side, we have the message that the form is being saved. A draft of the form is being saved. So I haven't made any changes. So when I click again on edit, nothing happens as usual. However, if I make any changes, like for example, I'm increasing this integer number, and then I go over edit again. For example, I'm revisiting the site after some time. I have a message that there are some changes and I can either discard them or resume from the last time. So as I've said, I have two users here, and autosaves are as per user. We see that this user doesn't get this message. So we can also make another change here. For example, decreasing the number now to really see that autosave works. And now I can click again here as the second user, and I see that I have a different state. And we see also that the time changed of the different states. I can resume the editing now here, and I'm going to see the increased number. I can resume the editing here, and now I'm going to see the decreased number. I can make also further changes. I can exchange the media and whatsoever and everything, and then that's going to give me that autosave state with these changes. I can make a change here as well. For example, I can add A here. I can write A. I can write here B. And now to show the concurrent editing part, I'm going to save this form here as the first user, and then I want to save the form as the second user. And when I save the form, what I see is that there are conflicts and I cannot save. But I don't see the usual Drupal message that I have to start over again. But if I want to, I can press that button, and that will be effectively what the current Drupal situation is without the conflict module. I can click on resolve conflicts, and what I see here is this is the inline part. I can say that I, for example, I see the my change. I see what was before I change it, and I see what is the current state. And I say, no, I'm pretty sure it's 9 minutes. I agree with that. And here is the same with that list. I can see again the list, and I can go here and say, oh, wait, it's not neither A nor B. We should just remove it. And then I go here. I need to confirm that the manual merge is completed, of course. And then I can save, and I can go here again, and I can see the 9 has been taken, and the other value has been deleted as I wanted to delete it. So that is showing it. And then the last part is showing that we have also the, let me see, I have an article. Or, okay, let me quickly check if there are any questions actually. And for paragraphs, you have to believe me that it works. So, Q&A. How to unlock in conflict? No, there isn't any how to unlock. If that issue where people are editing the node and close the tab without saving, if you could maybe provide steps to reproduce, I can take a look into that. Autosave form, any plans for web form integration? I haven't tested autosave with web form yet. Not sure if it's working or not. We can check that. I am going to check that. I was expecting that it's going to work. But yeah, sure. Let's check that. In autosave, changes are not published immediately. They are saved in autosave states. Autosave form currently supports only entity forms. It doesn't support custom forms, but you can extend and use it to support Autosave, to support custom forms as well. Because we provide a pretty nice API, and if you have like an entity in that custom form, then you can use it. But currently we have autosave only for entities. We don't have autosave for every kind of a form. Okay, I think that answers all the questions. DraftMan could be when it actually saves a new revision code with. Okay, Sasha, it doesn't save a new revision, it creates a new state. And that draft message, actually, that makes sense that we only show it if we are actually creating a new draft. Yes, of course. We can show the message after the draft is created and not before that. That's a really nice suggestion, yes. I'm going to open an issue right away for doing that on after creating the draft and before, instead of before creating the draft. Thanks. So, do we have any other questions? Also, the saving draft message, you can completely remove that if you don't want it to be shown. There is in the settings, there is a checkbox where you can remove it. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I think I'm going to stop the recording by leaving the session, I guess, because we are slightly over time now. So, thank you all for participating, and I thank you for having me, join the contributions, and see you around. If you want to chat with me, maybe just ping me around, and we can talk about conflict or autosave. Okay then, thank you, cheers, and have a nice day.